It's my 12-step process of how to leave behind who you're not happy with anymore. I cannot tell you what to do. Nobody else can. I cannot really advise to do anything. All I can do is share what worked for me. And I can offer up my tools, my flexibility, my versatility, my care, my time, my energy to help you in any way that I can to facilitate your health, your growth, your evolution. And I'm here to do that. I'm interested in doing that. So that's why I'm opening this knowledge up, because it has helped me in ways that went way beyond my sex life. It's this energy, this orgasmic energy, and this connection with the orgasmic energy has facilitated emotional health, mental health, financial health, physical health, and such transcendental, otherworldly experiences that are unquestionably a closer truth to my being than any other story on this planet about who we are. So I'm interested in digging deep into what sexuality is, how we are treating it on this planet, what it is not. And, even today, this was very generic and we started a bit late, so I'm not even sure how long I'm going to go. I'm not going to be long. But I have a very open way of talking about sexuality. I'm opinionated. I have my own viewpoint on it. I have my own standpoint on it, but I'm absolutely non-judgmental. You can come in with any issue, any sexual orientation, any preference, any kink, any desire, any urge, even if you deem it the absolute worst. You can come in saying that you've done such and such to so and so, and you feel horrible and guilty and shameful about it. And I will only say, okay, what's next? Because I do believe that our past does not define us. It gives us an opportunity to connect in ways that we did not imagine possible, and to reawaken to the power of connection, to reawaken to how much we are one and the same, even if we have various manifestations and infinite varieties. On some level, we have never been truly separated from each other. So our experiences are much more connected than we think they are. Sexuality and intimacy. That's the last thing before I'm going to go into that. So I think, and I'm not a fan of definitions. It's like, it's a definition straight up from the just made it up dictionary of Mill, that for me, the difference between sexuality and intimacy is that I believe that we are so under intimate with each other. I believe we are looking for intimate experiences, but because most of our intimate experiences happened in a sexual setting, we do not know how to differentiate. I'm going to give a very basic, very simple example. I'm very sensitive to people's energy when they are approaching me with the slightest sexual thoughts. Even when they have sexual thoughts, I feel it quite instantly. And so there was a time period in my life when I got quite like very strange, unwanted sexual attention. And it made me feel very, just very dirty, very oily from the inside. And I was like, what is it in me? What is it in my energy that draws this type of attention, this type of culture around me? And that's when I started learning how to fine tune my energy. I invite you to do one thing. Ask yourself and actually listen to the answer. Why do you want to have sex? And leave it as a generic question, not with your partner, not with this specific person. If you don't want to have sex, why don't you want to have sex? It's about the urge. It's about the motivation. Your answer will give you an angle from which you are looking at yourself as a sexual being. Do you believe that you are a sexual being? Are you comfortable with your sexuality? Are you comfortable being in your own body? Are you comfortable being the sexual being that you are? Are you comfortable with your own desires? Are you in touch with your own desires? Do you know what you want? Do you know what makes you happy? Do you understand what your body is actually responding to with pleasure? Are you trying to chase orgasms? Are you trying to please a partner? Are you trying to make someone else come before you come? Are you trying to figure out what the other person might enjoy sexually, romantically, intimately? Are you completely closing yourself off from connection, from intimacy, from sexuality? Are you afraid of anything? Are you ashamed of anything? Do you feel guilty about anything? So just ask yourself this simple, slightly poetic, very vague question. Why do you want to have sex? And then listen. What's your motivation behind it? What does sex mean to you? What kind of connection are you looking for? Are you expecting? What kind of relationships are you expecting? What's your definition of intimacy, sexuality? So for me, the difference between intimacy and sexuality is I started feeling this unwanted sexual attention. And I'm just like, all right, Mill, spill it, what it is. And I realized that I want that attention to compensate for the discrepancy that I feel between what I want to do and what I'm actually doing. There was a massive gap between the relationships that I wanted to have, the intimacy that I wanted to have, the partner that I wanted to be with versus the partner that I was with. And that imbalance in my field, that white noise in the background, or that, what's the word that I'm looking for? God, I'm not gonna remember. Anywho, you know what I mean. That thing. That's why I communicate with my hands. You know what I mean. That thing that was just not harmonious. That interference. That's the word. That interference pattern allowed for such predatorial sexual interest. And, it was a very new experience for me because I genuinely did not have negative experiences around sex before that. I was in situations when I could have been abused sexually, and I communicated my way out of those situations. I did not feel threatened. I did not feel like I'm in danger. So I noticed something very humane in the moment. And we were able to turn the situation around where it wasn't something that we would both feel very bad about, because we did not know how to have an outlet for those sexual urges. But we just both admitted it to it that I don't know how to have a healthy relationship. I don't know how to establish intimacy, and I want it so much. And I had many experiences when I gave some version of this speech to men and women that I've never met before, that, look, I don't want to have anything sexual with you, but I feel like that you are after the same thing as I am, and it's not sex. Right now, I feel lonely, and it's pretty easy for this body to be turned on. So yes, I might be turned on, but at the same time, I don't want to have sex with you. I don't want to have any kind of sexual connection with you. I just think we could both benefit from cuddling, or just a hug, or just a conversation. And we cried and laughed and cuddled and just smooched with strangers. Some of them I never asked their names. Some of them I will never meet again. But we shared an intimate moment that was somehow void of sexuality, because we were able to be honest about what we actually want. And it's pretty easy for the body to get turned on. It's a pretty physical process, not just friction. It's just mirror neurons. When you're watching someone having a sexual experience, your body automatically gets turned on. That's why, again, probably it's going to be in the porn episode. That's why, and that's how it can be very, very quickly and easily abused and misused and harnessed, this orgasmic energy, this sexual energy, because your body just responds to it so readily. So for me, that's the difference between sexuality and intimacy, that intimacy can be a very, very sexual experience, and sexuality, I believe, should be a very intimate experience, but they are not one and the same. And I think on this planet, that's my experience based on the conversations that I had with people. That for some weird reason, I have this personality that I sit people down, and in 5 minutes, especially men, I love those conversations with men. In like 5 minutes, they're like, I've never said this to anyone. And we talk a lot about stereotypes. We talk a lot about issues that men are not allowed to talk about or not allowed to show. And it's not just vulnerability. It's not just emotions. Sometimes it's desires. Sometimes men are not allowed to express, especially in a long-term relationship, especially when kids are involved, or especially when just some kind of an argument is involved, or a long-standing misunderstanding is involved in a relationship. They're not allowed to express how much they want to have sex, or how much they don't know how else to resolve a conflict, rather than being intimate or wanting to be intimate with each other. And there's so much miscommunication when more feminine creatures do not feel comfortable being intimate with someone, and masculine creatures want to solve and resolve conflict through intimacy and through sexuality. And the two just start clashing so much, and they are both feel misunderstood and unheard and unseen, and it's just a communication issue, just a translation issue. So we started, with my friends, with my circles, we talked a lot about how much more intimacy we could handle and we would want in our lives. So in some grassroots weird way, this is my way of bringing us back to the intimate connection that we could have and that we are capable of having. I'm planning to go home in this lifetime with as much of this body, without clothes preferably, but with as much of this body consciousness. I'm planning to go home. So let's see what we're going to be looking at. So in January and in February, I've structured 3 weeks and 3 weeks, 6 and 6 sessions, or these 1.5 hour conversations. I'm probably going to be shorter than this. I'm probably going to be only talking about for an hour, and then it would be such a nice experience to have a live back and forth, to have a kind of Q&A type of thing. I swear to God, I'm going to find a much better way of doing this online, because certain social media entities, for some reason, do not like me. Who understands why? So in January and in February, for 3 weeks, we're going to be meeting twice a week. Each session is, it can be a drop-in, or you can sign up for the entire experience. Each session is going to be a 1.5 hour experience. And I'm planning to bring in energetics as well. I'm planning to bring in techniques. Right now I don't have anybody to play with. I don't have anybody live. This live has stopped working ages ago. So I'm going to figure it out. It's just a little technical issue. But I'm planning to bring in physical exercises as well, energetic exercises as well. And I'm going to be talking about, probably that's the last thing that I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to be talking about the overarching energetics of the sexual energy, how much and how deeply we are interconnected through that sexual fabric. And right now, we are living in the illusion of free will. But the actual choices that we have are not fully in line with free will, because we are being very consciously misinformed about who we are and the natural powers, the natural abilities, the natural senses that we have as human beings within this body. This body is capable of so much more than what we are told, than what we are conditioned for. And that's what I want to start slowly opening up. So, we are going to talk about anything and everything. First off, we're going to kick off with masturbation. That's going to be such an interesting one. If you've ever masturbated, you do have a sex life. And I want to myth bust a couple of things around how your draining your energy or not draining your energy when you're masturbating, why the way semen retention is popularized. And again, my opinion, my 2 cents, and I swear like a goddamn fucking champion. So if it bothers anybody, then I'm sorry. So in my view, the way we are popularizing semen retention is absolute bullshit. Semen retention could be a natural outcome or byproduct of your sexual practice. And when it naturally arises, it's a feedback for you of where you are energetically, how much of your body you are understanding energetically, and how much you are in sync with your body. Now, if you reverse the logic, and if you're chasing the outcome before understanding the energetics of your body, then, it's a little bit like anything consumerist. It's like you're happy with that for a week. Good for you. It's an accolade on your wall. Well done, you not coming for the past 6 years. Are you at a level of consciousness where you know what you're doing to your body, where you know what your body is experiencing, where you know what's exactly happening when you are ejaculating or not? And then that's just males again. Why aren't we talking about female masturbation? So we are going to talk about it. And that's just day 1. Then we're going to go into emotional health. How the sexual center, your sacral chakra in the chakra system, your lower pelvic area and the energy center around it is not just the sexual energy center, it's also the emotional energy center. It's your elemental command station. Your hormonal, physical, biochemical responses are tied to your emotional states. Your emotional filters are trigger responses for your biochemistry to flood your body with certain electrical, hormonal, and chemical substances, responses. So your emotional world, your chemical, biochemical, biophysical world, and your sexuality, your sexual life, your sexual self, your relationship with your body are very intimately interlinked. And I am painfully aware how much you can be at the mercy of your body when you simply don't know how to generate serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin in your chemistry, in your brain chemistry, in your biology. My body has experienced extreme depression just because I was not able to. And I thank fuck I did not go on any medication, because now I would be even in a better, even in a worse state. So at least I didn't do any medication. But I self-medicated with legal and less legal ways. And I've done my fair share of very gung-ho experimentations of my own biochemistry. Serotonin can put you into a state of serotonin syndrome, where you can get to catatonic, comatized states, catatonic shakes. I had 3 of those. I'm telling you, addict, just straight up. It was a massive work for my biochemistry, for my brain chemistry, to wean myself off those addictive responses. So I'm very aware of how intimately your emotional world and your sexual world are intertwined. Now we're at January 13th. Step 3, self-worth. How your intimacy, your sexuality, how your body image is defined by the stories that we're being told, how everything from, I'm a 90s child. I grew up on romantic movies. I consumed rom-coms on a weekly basis. The beginning of my romantic life was me trying to mimic the dramas that I inhaled from rom-coms. I was looking for conflict. I was looking for crisis to have the catharsis. I was looking for the breakup just to have the makeup sex. I was looking for the drama just to have that cathartic, happy ending moment when it's a flash mob in the middle of fucking New York, because all of them are in New York. All the rom-coms. So you know what I mean? That most of my early search for a partner was consumed, consciously, subconsciously, completely consumed by the messages that I soaked up from advertising, storytelling, the songs that I was engaging with. I mean, I listened to a couple of songs, just, you know, I was starting to do research for this, and I started to look for what I want to talk about. And it is shocking how well I executed some of those lyrics. It's like it became a straight up story of my relationships, or of a certain relationship. It's frightening. So, self-worth, we're going to be talking about how you are valuing yourself, where you fit in your own value system, how much worth, how much value you are putting on your body, your emotions, your thoughts, and how much of that is taken from other people's telling. So we're going to be talking about how you can live your own reality without trying to copy or live up to someone else's created and fabricated fantasy. Then next up, get clean. That's all about addiction. We are going to talk about addiction, not just addiction to sex or some form of sexual behavior. I'm not sure that we're going to talk anything about perversion, because I don't, you know, I've had encounters. I had my fair share of R&D in this field. You know, I had my research, even though I kept my energy field as pure as I could. It wasn't an intentional thing as much, but I felt like that I don't want to engage with certain situations. But just out of pure interest, I've tried a bunch of things. So I had run-ins with people who are living with certain urges that are very specific, very niche. And some people might categorize them as complete perversions, or just very weird ways of experiencing yourself or expressing yourself sexually. Like, there were people who were only turned on by very specific characteristics, and they couldn't break out of that model. That scenario, that trigger somehow kept them in an addictive loop, and they couldn't live a fulfilling and healthy sex life out of those boundaries. So we're going to be talking about addiction, not just in a sexual addiction sense, but as well as all sorts of substance abuse and the biochemistry and the psychology behind addictive behaviors, and how orgasmic experiences and opening up to a different emotional world, a different emotional understanding, how that can and will enable you to live without any addictive patterns and without any addictive behaviors. And if you look at the rundown, the further we go in the steps, the more complex frequencies we're bringing in. So by step 4, we are opening up to proper emotional connection. I wouldn't be able to say anything about anything, anything about life, but anything about sexuality without having to go through love first. It was an absolute necessity for me to understand why love comes first, to understand why love is not an emotion, it's a container. It's a frequency. What's the word that I'm looking for? When you're equalizer, I guess. I guess that's the word for it. It's a frequency equalizer, the love frequency, where it's like a warm and comfortable bed for anyone to come and have a good night's sleep in. That's what love is for me. That's what the love frequency is. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what you bring in. It doesn't matter how dirty and rugged you are. There is a warm, cozy, welcoming, soft, kind, sweet place for you where you can always have a peaceful rest. To me, that's love. And the deeper I started to have a relationship with the sexual energy, the more I realized that I'm experiencing a depth of love that I didn't even know was possible, because that's not what I've seen from the human beings around me at the time. And when I made it into my internal reality, that depth of love, that the strength of that love or that connection or the authenticity of that love is possible, then people, real life relationships started to match my internal experience. Until I was experiencing myself, until my story, until my personal narrative was fear-based, anger-based, shame, guilt-based narrative, anxiety-based narrative, I was experiencing the exact same relationships outside of myself. My intimate and non-intimate relationships, were just somehow based on conflict, based on antagonism. Drama was just inherent to those relationships. And when I started giving in and the orgasmic energy started showing me this home-like state where there's really no danger and you can connect with such pure desire to give everything that you are and experience everything and love everything that the other being is. When that becomes an experiential, physical muscle memory, then that cannot be taken away from you anymore. That level of connection, that you're not willing to give up on it just to fulfill a desire, just to have a one-night stand, just to have a partner or a relationship. You start looking for a different quality of people in your life. You start not expecting is not the right word for it. You start appreciating different people, different things in your life, and those different circumstances will start to saturate your hologram, your field. So, step 5, divorce fantasy and marry reality. Probably that's one of my favorite ones. I've spent most of my childhood in states that other people call daydreaming. Now looking back, I was doing something slightly different than just daydreaming. I was properly having experiences that were actual back and forth physical communication situations. So now that I'm traveling different timelines, maneuvering different timelines, now I'm reestablishing some of those connections. So now I'm realizing that as a child, sometimes I was talking to myself as an adult. And now, as an adult, I visit and I talk to myself as a child and make that connection real. You can say that I'm making the whole shit up, or I like to look at the world in a more poetic way. When I started doubting everything and started dissecting everything and started saying that I'm just crazy for thinking that these things could be real, I lived a very miserable life. And when I started accepting the reality between, when I started accepting that it can be real to communicate with such instant frequency exchange, information exchange, that you actually can feel what the other person is feeling, think what the other person is thinking on the other side of the planet. When that became my reality, my base for understanding the world, those experiences became more and more frequent. Maybe cognitive bias. I don't believe in magic. I don't believe in mystery. Maybe it's just a version of ourselves that we are just starting to remember. So, divorce fantasy, marry reality. Again, I come from a storytelling background. So I'm painfully aware of what the energy siphoning systems and devices behind the sexual energy is. So this is going to be our porn piece. What does the porn industry do to us? How is the celebrity culture and the porn culture and the dating culture is set up as a straight up energy siphoning mechanism? And we're going to talk a little bit about technology and how we are trying to fabricate intimacy through technology, or how we're trying to chase orgasmic experiences through technology, how we're trying to conserve something from our consciousness through sexuality, through technology, and how that shift towards a more technology-based existence is actually disconnecting us from our bodies and from our true physical ability to act on our supernatural senses, because we start relying on technology to give us the superpowers that we don't actually believe that we have. And it's the same, but a bit different with the porn industry, that I'm not bashing porn. I had my own run-in with porn. I had my own addictive period with porn. Even a few weeks ago when I was starting to have the outline for what I want to talk about, I found new flavors of porn that I haven't found before. And I had a few days when I'm like, I find something that I want to come back to in this world. So, I'm not closing myself off from these energies, even if I do know what these energies are and where they are coming from and where this whole energy siphoning system is originating from and where the energy is going. I'm fully aware of that. And I still, I'm still at I consciously put myself into the position where I experiment with the boundaries, the facets of the sexual energy itself. It's the same thing. I've consciously put myself into situations where I could experience sexual abuse just to be able to understand what it is, just to have the muscle memory of what it feels like to be the abuser and be completely taken over by your urges, by your physicality, by your desires, and by beings beyond your control. And what it feels like being the abused and completely losing control, completely losing faith, completely losing safety, security. I've put myself through, guided myself through consciously those physical experiences just to have the empathy, the muscle memory. And it's something similar with porn. It's something similar with the kink scene. It's something similar with BDSM for me, that I have a slightly different energetic understanding of where those industries are originating from. There's nothing wrong with the people who are populating those industries. It's the structure, the energetic structure behind those industries that are running energy siphoning technologies. Step 6. Enjoy the scenic route. Oh my God. You are talking to the lady who's had amounts of orgasmic experiences, just quantity. And I'm still looking for quality over quantity. And I'm still advocating for the experience of spending time with your body, actually physically doing anatomy, getting good with yourself, understanding what you are radiating towards, what turns you on, what drives you, what motivates you, what urges, what's the motivation behind your urges, behind your desires? What is it that's actually fulfilling for you? What is it that your body is actually responding to? And for those explorations, you actually need to spend time with yourself, not time that you spend with Netflix and chill, not time that you spend doing the same, not time that you spend mindlessly masturbating or mindlessly going into sexual situations where you just keep doing the same routine or keep putting your body into a position where you're holding stress, you're chasing an orgasm, you're trying to look a certain way or act a certain way. No, it actually takes a little bit of time to play around and have a little bit of flexibility with things you might not think you would be enjoying, or situations or positions or physical scenarios where you might feel uncomfortable. And then whether you are alone or with a partner, being able to guide yourself through those uncomfortable situations, have a little bit of a look or an insight into why those states are making you feel uncomfortable. What's behind that? What's the underlying unresolved issue, or the unfulfilled need, or the unmet desire that is making you feel uncomfortable about certain situations. So it's a little bit of exploration and a little bit of time spent with true desire and the truth of your sexual playfulness. Ta-da! I believe we've come to the end of January with step 6. Oh yeah, February. Fear not. We're going to talk about all sorts of sexual orientation, sexual identity. This is where fetish and kink can come in. I'm tragically hetero. I tried being non-hetero, and it's just, I'm missing certain crucial parts from women. Even though they're beautiful creatures, I do appreciate them. We had a tribe, but I'm into guys, what can I say? And it's a very interesting experience I have many friends who have very different sexual orientation, sexual identity, sexual understanding, gender orientation, gender identification than what I subscribe to. So I have a quite wide range, a wide gamut of conversations and understandings of how much of a difference it can make when you are not conforming to the norm. And what's the backlash? What are the psychological and sociological issues that you have to face as a parent when you see your child that they are going to lead a different life than the majority of people? How do you navigate those situations? How do you raise a child? How do you make them feel safe and secure in this world? How do you make yourself feel safe and secure in this world if you feel like you're not the norm? I don't want to change this body. I don't want to push my body through, I don't want to push chemicals and hormones into this body, because I don't think that would actually give me a different experience. But for a very long time, I had a very hard time accepting that I'm in a female body in this lifetime. I don't want to change it. This is the card that I got dealt. But because of my upbringing, I had the messages that women are the lesser sex, and that women are manipulative and stupid and unreliable and untrustworthy and just horrible creatures, all in all. Those were the messages that I grew up with. So I was very reluctant being in a female body. I was very uncomfortable. I wasn't a tomboy. I wasn't acting like a guy, but my emotional world, my thinking patterns were way more masculine. I was running more masculine energies in my biofield for the first 24-ish years of my life. And I had a really hard time, first of all, accepting how much I was bashing and shaming and abusing my own femininity and my own feminine energies, and then making peace with it and making friends with it, how I can be feminine and masculine at the same time, and how can I find my sexual essence, because my essence is definitely feminine. The way I relate to a sexual partner in a sexual situation, I definitely enjoy being in a feminine, receptive, responsive state rather than a masculine state. but that's not how I was carrying myself in the world. That's not how I was conducting my non-sexual relationships. I was very masculine. And it put me into situations when people are like, are you a lesbian? And I really had to, you know, I got into situations and I got into, I've experienced discrimination, even though I wasn't even part of a group that they think they should be discriminating. You know, I even ran into those situations when I was discriminated for something that I didn't even subscribe to. It's crazy what we're doing to each other and how much we are still carrying these collective wounds around sexuality. So we're going to open up that Pandora's box a little bit. Then one night stands, holy shit, the online and offline dating scene. I mean, you know, I have never really been on a date, just because my relationships were structured differently. We met in different circumstances. We lived a different lifestyle. So I've never been on a date where I've never known the person. I've just shown up for kind of a blind date or, you know, a first meeting with someone. I've never been on one of those. And a few weeks ago, I went on one of these online dating events just so that I have the experience. And I mean, as you know, I do believe that we are all very empathetic and very capable of feeling each other emotionally. And I do walk around on this planet as a sponge, completely soaking up other people's energy. And when I entered that online space, that dating space, that date night space, holy fuck, the torrent of sadness, desperation, fear, fake joy, this urge to sell ourselves for something that we're not on a surface level was frightening and incredibly off-putting. And just, I've found something in it that genuinely made my skin crawl. And then they did these individual speed dating Zoom rooms. And when I started having, you know, a minute and a half conversations with people one-on-one, not all of them, but most of them were very genuine, very open, very honest. And they were looking for something very genuine, very open, very honest. But the external facade, how the entire event was run, was so forced, so fake, trying way too hard, so obviously unfulfilling. And I just feel like, you know, if you are a single person out there, that's the meeting that you want to join. That's the night that you want to be there. Because, my God, that's going to be an interesting night for me. I just want to offer up my emotional understanding and my emotional support that, you know, if I look at my life, I've spent more time being single than being in a romantic relationship. I've lived with people very close. I've had very, very close relationships, even if they were not sexual relationships. So I've had more time in non-sexual relationships than in sexual relationships. And I do not stand by the dating culture that we have. I am categorically against the pressure that we are putting ourselves under to find a partner, to be with a partner. Before that episode, I'm going to make it compulsory for people to watch Daniel Sloss's, he's a Scottish stand-up comedian, fucking brilliant. Daniel Sloss's Netflix special, Jigsaw. If you haven't seen it, my fucking God. Broke up my relationship very successfully. So we're going to be talking about being single and the dating culture itself, and how to not feel bad about being single, and how to find the partner that is not your soulmate, not your twin flame, just the person who actually really loves you. And how can you have a relationship where you are showing up the way that you want to show up in a relationship, where you feel fulfilled, satisfied, where you feel like you're giving, you're contributing, you're loving, you're giving your love. And that's not going to be through Tinder. Spoilers. Step 9, stop touching. So in step 1, I keep advocating to keep touching yourself. Please do not stop masturbating just because someone tells you to stop. And on this stage, I do encourage you to stop touching altogether. We're going to be talking about energetic orgasms. We're going to be talking about how to sensitize your body, female or male. Yes, gentlemen, your body is ridiculously sensitive. You can have energetic orgasms. You can have full body orgasms. You can have orgasms with or without ejaculation. You can have multiple orgasms with or without ejaculation. You can have a shorter and shorter refractory period between ejaculations so that you can get to a state that even if you ejaculate, that's not a depletion of your energy, and that doesn't mean the end of the night. You can keep going and going for hours or for days. And pull yourself together. And that realm of bringing in energetics and combining it with the orgasmic experience, where you get to have a full-on physical embodiment of creation mechanics itself, and you can start opening up your biofield so that the entire world starts to feel like you are in a constant, like everything is fuckable. Everything turns you on. And I'm only using this language because it's a more masculine language. When I'm in my most, like when I'm speaking, this kind of relationship is a more masculine relationship. This is a masculine energy that I'm running right now. So as a masculine being, I would say that, do you have those days? It's not just like it's a few hours, days on end, where you just feel ready to fuck everything. And not in a pervy way, not in an overly sexualized way. No, it's an energy, it's a drive that makes you feel like you are ready and able to penetrate life itself. Every single situation that you go in, you're winning it. Every single conversation you have, every interaction you have, you are just at your best. You are so into it. You're so present. You're bringing your absolute best. That the entire world just becomes this fuck fest. Now that's the masculine energy. From a feminine perspective, it's more, hang on. as a feminine being, you start having this, it's a constant turn on. Just everything is just constantly turning you on. When it's like a never-ending pre-coital, post-coital state. You're never pre-coital. You're never not pre-coital, and you're never not post-coital. Because at that point, every interaction that you have is somehow an orgasmic experience, an orgasmic exchange. I can get to those states from a feminine perspective. From a masculine perspective, it's just best energy. From a feminine perspective, it's being taken by the world, being experienced by the world. I'm losing clothes. Unfair. So from a feminine perspective, it's like never-ending foreplay. Just the world starts to turn you on. Your body starts to feel so good. Everything just starts opening up as a very playful, very fun, very adventurous experience. So we're going to be talking about energetic orgasms. Then step 10, translation. This is where masculine and feminine differences and similarities come in. We've talked about it a little, so I'm not going to go into that in much depth. This is the conflict resolution stage, where simple miscommunication issues can trigger such nonsensical fights when you don't even remember what the fuck you're fighting about anymore. You just want to win, and you do not want to allow the other person to lose. You get to that strict tunnel vision mindset where those magnetic and electric differences start to create a static energy. When there is no energy flow, there's no back and forth, there's no real conversation, there's no real possibility for an exchange. You both become static, and you start bouncing off each other. You start genuinely clashing with each other as electromagnetic physical energies. Those kind of fights between men and women can get real nasty. Or masculine essence and feminine essence beings, or just two beings who are expressing two masculine points of view or two feminine points of view at the same time in a way that they don't know how to communicate through. Simple things like the feminine is an internalizing energy. The masculine is an externalizing energy. So the masculine can have such anger outbursts, while the feminine can have such deep, depressive states that it's absolutely infuriating for the masculine to watch the feminine struggle and suffer. And it's absolutely off-putting and terrifying for the feminine to watch the masculine exploding and expressing their anger or their frustration or their emotions. And one becomes more and more angry, the other becomes more and more fearful, and there's just a larger and larger divide between masculine and feminine expressions. So we're going to be talking about translation and translation issues. Then step 11, my favorite one, family and parenting. I have a very I'm not saying it's unique, but it's a very personal view on why and how I do not want to have children. And I wanted to share this for a very, very long time. I might do it completely separately, or I might dedicate a small segment to it. But I believe that unless we are very consciously readying ourselves and choosing with every cell of our beings to be a parent and choose the being who's being born into our families and have a good and open communication, learn how to have a good and open communication with the incoming spirit and with the being that is growing up in our household, because it's not our child, it's not your child, and you are not their parent. You are coexisting at a different stage of your evolutionary experience. So I believe that unless you are ready for those states, we should not be producing children nilly-willy. We're going to be talking about family. We're going to be talking about raising kids. We're going to be talking about how to have a healthy sex life while you have kids, how to rekindle a spark that is just not there ever since you have kids, ever since there are chores and bullshit around the house. And you can get to states in a relationship where there's love, there's such deep love and understanding and kindness and care. But where is the desire? Where is the fun? Where is the primal sexuality that might have existed in the beginning of the relationship? And then how to bring those states back and how to build a sex life around a family life or with parallel with a family life. And then step 12, my favorite. I termed it welcome home because that's where we're going to look at the science of sexual ascension. Ascension in a sense that you're going inwards rather than outwards. But ascension is just a more popularized term for it. And I'm talking about physical ascension. I'm talking about physically changing your matter density, your body form through the sexual energy. And there's physics to it. It's black and white. It's simple. It's not necessarily easy, but it's bloody fucking simple to do it. And should you be interested in working together? Should you be interested in being part of a group? Should you be interested in starting to experiment actually properly with more transcendental states of sexual awareness? Then we have established the groundwork for it. Then these 12 steps are the baseline that helps clearing up our mental, physical, emotional states. You know, I'm going to be going through this with you just as much. I'm learning still. After all of these years, I'm still each and every time learning something new. Today, what I've learned is that I do have a live feed. I do have a live experience. I did not know what I want to talk about today specifically. And I never know how deeply sexual I go, or how energetic I go, or how emotional I go. And from today's experience, I just had the sense that the frequency that I'm using to translate a message, to give off a message, transmit something from this body to your body, that frequency speaks to you beyond the words. And I've learned how to modulate and fine tune my frequency, that if there is the slightest intention of neediness or any amount of fakery, any amount of bullshit, any amount of wanting to look good or having pride in what I've achieved and anything, if I have the slightest amount of those energies, those frequencies, then the people who are going to be responding to this message are going to be the people who are running the same frequencies in the background, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, unconsciously. And today what I've learned is that how pure this energy is for me, how pure this connection with the orgasmic energy is for me. That I have a very childlike, not childish, but childlike sense of looking at the world. I like saying that I'm naive because it sounds harmless, but there is nothing naive about this. I'm very aware of the dark side of not just the sexual energy, but this planet. I'm very, very painfully aware of physically, mentally, emotionally, what we're doing to each other. And it still did not manage to take me down. It did not manage to ruin my absolute boundless, not hopeless, it's not hopeless, but absolute boundless willingness to love and to give and to be kind. So if you're up for an experience, and I mean, not having this conversation live was the first sign for me that it is something significant, something meaningful. Because when forces are trying to keep you quiet and put you in a corner, then you know that you're onto something. You realize that when people start gathering around topics, around frequencies, around states of consciousness that are freeing you, that are reminding you of your own power, that are teaching you how to use that power. And after a while, you start running into the other forces who do not wish you to have that free memory, to have that free will and free agency. And that's what I want to create. That's all I want to create. I want to go home, and I want to go home together. I want you to have a deeply intimate experience of your own self, of your own life, to have the connections, to have the relationships. Maybe it's a life partner relationship, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a child, maybe it's a friend, or maybe it's yourself. But to have that relationship and those relationships that are so truly meaningful, so deeply authentic, so radically honest, so beautifully vulnerable, so fucking joyful, adventurous, pleasurous, just so ridiculously fun that if and when you look back, you're truly happy to have had those experiences, and you're truly proud to be you. I want that for you. I want that for everyone. And if you want the same thing for yourself, why not do it together? Alrighty, I'm just gonna stop talking. So I hopefully have done enough introduction. I hopefully have done enough teasing. We didn't go much into deep sexuality. You know, I haven't used enough terms, but I hope you've gotten the gist out of it. And I hope you can see that once we start digging into more personal issues, more personal questions, once you start bringing in your own stories and your own personal issues, the tone changes, the frequency shifts. And when we have more specific questions, more specific issues, that's when we start seeing that maybe, just maybe, we are not that different. And we might have very versatile and very distinct memories, experiences, circumstances. But the human experience, the emotional journey is pretty universal for human beings. And once you get that down, once you have one good relationship, and that starts with you, that good relationship is between you and your source self, between you and your creator self. Once you have that relationship down, you pretty much got all the tools that you need for all other relationships, all other situations, all other circumstances. And I wish that for you. I really do. So, should you wish to join, we're going to be doing 3 weeks in January, 3 weeks in February. My website is masterofstory.net. It's right there available. You can find me on any social media platform, whenever social media allows me to go live or have my posts not banned. And I do encourage you that if you felt something personal, because I'm definitely not for everyone, and I'm definitely doing something different than most people out there. That's why I'm not selling or marketing or anything. If you find me, then you know that we're meant to be doing things together. So if you find something in this that speaks to you personally, then hey, I'm just a person. Reach out. You know, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be ashamed about. I had my own fair share of dumb fuckery. There's nothing that I'm going to be judging you about. And there's nothing that we cannot solve together. So, hope to see you in January. If not, then I'm going to be still out there. This is a very interesting beginning for me for something way, way bigger. This is my way of workshopping the emotional side of proper DNA level bioregenesis that I want to practice. And I don't want to practice it by myself. I do want to create group settings where we exponentially elevate each other's creative energy and physical ability to shift our natural biochemical, biophysical, electromagnetic field and start mastering our own self, start becoming the true masters of our own being. So much love, forever and always. And in some shape or form, I do feel like saying happy holidays because I might go into a deep silence again. Who knows? I might enjoy a little Christmas silence. Much, much love. You can reach out, and I do love you. Speak soon.